We are here. We're live. Good morning, everybody. Y'all have been waiting for this one. We have Jeremy here with us. You guys know Jeremy from in the group. He kind of came out of nowhere a couple weeks ago talking to you guys about some problems that you guys were having, creative solutioning. And as soon as Jeremy started talking, I was like, this guy is the real deal. We need to bring him in and talk to you guys, tell his story about where he's been as a real estate investor, what he's doing. I don't know if you know this. I don't know that he'll brag about himself, but let me pull up some of the stats as far as what you've done this past year. First and foremost, what are you most proud of? If you have to pick one thing out of your laundry list of achievements from this past year, what are you most proud of?
Oh man, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting that one. I would say probably the fact that we've continued to grow our team, and in 2022, a lot of shifts have happened in the market, and so we kind of were waiting for that. Actually, we've been waiting for that for about a year. But when everyone else was flipping and getting paid, over asking on day one or really quickly, we were like, man, we just kept wholesaling those deals, and we were getting above average wholesale fees. But we were like, man, we could really make a lot of money. But we knew a shift was coming. And as the interest rates and other things started to happen in the market, we're like, okay, now is that time. So I think being most proud is that we've continued to keep the marketing on. The faucet has been running. In fact, we're doubling down when people have gotten a little bit nervous or afraid of what's going to happen. And so our lead flow hasn't dropped off at all. But that's because we've been consistent with the marketing. And, so we're making some shifts for 2023 and how we buy, and we'll probably wholesale less and other things that we could talk about, here. But I think I'm most proud of the fact that we've built a really strong team. We've continued to grow, and then we've pivoted with the market, and we're okay with it. We think bigger things are to come as the market goes south.
Yes. So just to recap a little bit of what you did in 2022 for anyone that doesn't know you, you moved 85 properties, added 26 rental units with 46% equity, sold 30-unit apartment building. You spent a little bit less on your marketing and increased your number of deals by 93%. You entered into a new market, which we were just talking about before we went live. So we're going to talk about that. Not a new market like outside your current area in your same state, new market like halfway across the country. Increased revenue by over 45%, invested in 3 new team members, created a new real estate investing marketing channel, and you now offer hard money lending nationwide. So, good morning. We've got a couple people jumping in. Good morning. Good morning. That's a lot. Let's start at the beginning of how long have you been in this? Like, some people might listen to that list of achievements and go, this guy's been doing this since he was 19 years old. He's got this game down. How long have you actually been doing this, and how did you get started? Because this is not your typical story.
Okay, so I'm going to go way back here. So in 2014, my wife and I were in the middle of an adoption. In fact, we adopted 2 girls, and we were adopting them from the Congo. What happened was there were all sorts of complications and issues. And so my wife and I decided, you know what, we just need to go. Like, we're going to go live in the Congo. We're going to be with these girls. We had our son who was 2 years old. And so we're like, he's coming with us. And our parents freaked out. Our relatives are like, you guys are nuts. Why are you doing this? This is crazy. And so I was working for a nonprofit at the time, traveling kind of all over the world. And so I basically told my boss, I said, hey, my wife and I need to go and be with our girls. And so are you okay with me working from Congo? And so I would travel to Ethiopia. I was in Uganda or Iraq or other parts of the world closer to there. So I was hoping that he would say yes. And fortunately, he did. And so I told my boss, I said, good, if you didn't, I was putting in my resignation. So fast forward, or actually kind of what happened was my wife and I go to Congo. We thought we were going to be there for, a month or so, maybe 2 months, but we're like, we'll stay here as long as we need to. And as it turned out, we were there 18 months. We moved about 4 different times to different parts of the country. And, there were people that were sneaking kids out of the country, and we're like, we are not doing that. And so we followed the process. We dealt with the government and all of the nonsense that goes along with it. And so we just kind of managed to get by. And during that time, so prior to that, I had been doing, listening to Bigger Pockets, and had been doing some, some research, and like, how am I going to get into this? I got to do it on the side. I work for a nonprofit. I don't make squat for money. And so while I was in Congo, we had a really hard situation. Our son got really sick and literally almost died. And then as a result of that, we met a guy who was about the same age as us, who was from Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'm, from Nashville. And he started buying quadplexes in Chattanooga from the Congo. And so I don't remember the exact number. I don't remember the exact number of doors that he picked up, but I want to say he came back to the States a couple years later, and he had picked up like 40 or 50 doors.
That's
And I'm like,
insane.
and I had really good conversations with him. And I'm like, listen, if he is a missionary working at a hospital in Lubumbashi, Congo, which most people have probably never even heard of, and he's buying a portfolio of, small multis, I'm like, this is crazy. And so that was incentive enough for me to say, hey, I'm just going to jump in. So again, fast forward, we were able to exit the Congo with our girls, and it was 2016. And I was struggling. My wife and I were struggling in our marriage, and I was, struggling with, finances from that nonprofit job. Like, it just wasn't enough for a growing family. I went from one child to 3 kids, and I just couldn't do all the side hustle stuff. It wasn't making sense anymore. And I'm like, I'm not going to blow up my marriage just to stay in this gig. And so I needed to step away. So I had been doing a lot of research in real estate. I knew that was the next path. So I heard a Bigger Pockets podcast with a guy named Tom Kroll. Tom Kroll, to me, is legendary. He was the one who founded Wholesaling Inc. So if you've ever heard of Wholesaling Inc., they've grown really big and really fast. But his podcast, when 2000 and I think it was 16, was just amazing. So I'm like, you know what? This guy's got a coaching program, and I need something. I got to do something. So $5,000 on a credit card. This was $5,000 I did not have. My wife supported me in this. She said, hey, if you believe in it, then I believe in you. Go do it. But it freaked us out, as you can imagine. So we did that. I got in, and basically what I loved about him is he's like, hey guys, you guys don't know what the heck you're doing. I'm going to give you a path. I'm going to give you a roadmap, and you're going to take action, and you're going to send out mail. And when that call comes in, you're not going to know how to respond. We'll give you a script, but here's the deal. You're not know what you're talking about. You're going to make all sorts of mistakes. Just take massive imperfect action. That was his thing. And he was saying that, I felt like, long before a lot of the other people were saying that, but that's just stuck with me. And I didn't know anything and just jumped in. So it was a tough go, because I got 2 really great deals. I bought the deal, or I put 2 houses under contract within the first 30 days.
Wow.
So I had buyers for both of them. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm going to be one of those guys that, goes really fast, and I'm going to be an early success story. Well, guess what?
Right.
The first one, the girl was going to lose the house, and she couldn't sell it. Once we got the title work back, it was a situation where it had to be passed down to her, to the heirs in the family. And so she couldn't pay the taxes, but neither could the heirs, because they were minors. And they couldn't act on it. Was a messy story. So here I am thinking, I've got a $30,000 wholesale fee and have the buyer lined up. I'm good to go. And then boom, no deal. And then another deal we had that was very similar. And it ended up where we couldn't help the seller out. The title issues could not be fixed. And so I had it was the same type of situation. It was a $30,000 wholesale fee. So while this is happening, and keep in mind, I'm just starting out, I put together a carrot site. That's the first thing I did. I had a carrot site because I needed some buyers. So I directed them to that. And I'm like, well, I can just have a Nashville investor carrot site. Didn't know how to use it. Didn't know anything, but I was like researching real estate. And so I was learning about SEO versus PPC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing direct mail. That was it. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm doing the direct mail. I'm getting some leads. I've got 2 deals, and I'm all excited. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go the SEO route. Well, at the time, there were a few different firms that were, supposedly really good. And I have $60,000 coming in, so I'm good to go. And I then invested in a 12-month SEO contract at $2,300 a month.
Oh, wow.
And I keep in mind that these two deals were going to cover that,
Right.
put the cart before the horse, and both deals gone. And I'm locked into $2,000 a month. I'm like,
Oh
oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
So I'm
What
like, well,
did you freaking think in that moment? Like, you're losing the deals. You have this contract. You spent $5,000 on this course. Like, you are in this, completely in this. What did you panic? Were you like, no, I've still got this. I believe in this. Like, what was that moment like for you?
okay, so I definitely panicked. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm like, I knew better. Like, you need to close the deal, then invest. But I'm like, no, I'm in this for the long run. I'm gonna do it. It's fine. It's a long-term decision. No matter what happens, well, no matter what did happen.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh shoot, this is bad. Like, it probably took me, I don't remember if it was 2 weeks or 2 months, but it took me a while to tell my wife because
Ooh.
I was like, this is crazy. But deep
Been there,
down
done that.
inside, yeah,
Yes, he
it's
has.
crazy. So deep down inside, I'm like, well, okay, so this is hard. I'll have to figure that out with my wife. That's a different conversation. Let's put that aside. My thing is like, listen, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to figure out what I need to do. And so one deal crumbled, and then it was like a week and a half later, the second deal crumbled, and then I'm like, oh shoot, now I'm in real trouble. I'm committed. So I just said, hey, you know what? I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason, and I believe that I believe in living God-sized dreams. And so because I believe in God, and I'm a huge believer in, like, I don't want to be relying on myself. So if I go all in, and if God is for me, then He can help me out of this situation. So I will tell you that my faith helped me through it, but also my belief in myself too. I'm like, all right, well, I've already invested in myself. Other people are doing this. Just keep plowing forward. There is no plan B. Like, there's nothing else. So I'm like, I got to figure this out. I got to find another deal. I got to keep mailing. So I was plowing through Craigslist. I was doing everything. So I found my first deal through Craigslist, not direct mail, as much as I love direct mail. I helped a guy out who could not, no one else could seem to help him out. He had it under contract. No one could do anything. And so I bought a house, and I wish I owned that house. It's very close to Nissan Stadium where the Tennessee Titans play. And you could literally hear the concerts, or the announcers from that house. But at the time, it was like, hey, I just got to figure something out. So I thought I was going to assign the property because, well, I mean, you can renovate this thing. You can make it 2 stories. I mean, it was amazing. So I buy this house, and I'm like, all right, well, hey, even if I just get, even if I just get 10 or 15,000, someone's going to buy this house. Well, then I buy it, and I have a realtor come to me and say, hey, I want to help you out. I'm like, okay, how can you help? She says to me, do you know that this house is a historical house?
Oh no.
I'm like, no. So I bought it, and I'm trying to offload it to someone else. I follow the, program, have the email list, send it out to people that I had been talking with and whatever. And I had some interest, but when people did their due diligence, like this realtor, fortunately, she was the one who came forward and said, hey, this isn't going to work for you, or for a flipper, because the numbers work. Yes, if you can do what, you're telling people they can do. Unfortunately, you have to get approval from the Historical Society. And the reality is you can't mess with the footprint, and you can't put on a second level. And so I'm like, oh, shoot. So I took out a hard money loan. I ended up taking out a hard money loan and closed on the deal, and said, you know what? My father-in-law is a contractor. I'm going to flip the house, but I'm going to do it in a little bit different way. I think I'm getting it for a good price. So, I think we bought it for $255. We put about probably 5,500 into it. It was like one of those just quick cosmetic flips. There was a lot that still needed to be done to sell for top dollar. And then we had it listed on the market, and essentially sold, or so we thought, at 330. For some reason, I still don't know to this day, that buyer backed out, and we had to come down. We ended up selling it for 300 after fees and everything. I ended up making 14,000 on my first flip. Long story short, I found a deal on Craigslist, and I was just hustling, and I needed to just figure that out. And so I didn't plan on flipping. I planned on wholesaling, but I found wholesaling starting out to be difficult. So I thought, well, flipping will be easier starting out. I can get properties. And so that was the first property. I made 14K, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep refining. I know I can do this and I can face all sorts of obstacles, and I just keep plowing through them, over them, around them, whatever it is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that first deal was a really challenging one. And then losing those two $30,000 assignment fees told me, hey, even if I don't have early success, it doesn't matter. I'm staying in this. I'm going to figure it out. And so that was actually huge in my development because it helped me build confidence from day one that I can overcome some major obstacles.
At what point do you look back? We've got Brad Couch dropping some fire emojis. I feel like that's super relatable. At any point, how close were you to just giving up after you lost those two $30,000 deals and you're like, I have to tell my wife? I feel like any husband wife team that's gone through that, we've been through that same thing, both sides of us, having to share that news with someone. How close, real talk, were you to just going back to the nonprofit or finding another job and saying, no, I can't do this?
I mean, it wasn't an option. I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't an option. So, what to make matters worse? Okay, here's what's crazy: is my wife was homeschooling the kids, and so she didn't have an income. So I left the nonprofit job that I had. We had about 20,000. We burned through that very, very fast.
Yeah.
And then what I did is I actually took out a HELOC for $60,000 that we had from our main home. My wife, again, she supported it. She said, hey, if she's like, I'm freaked out by this, but I believe in you. So I took out 60K and I literally started borrowing from my own HELOC to pay my bills.
Wow.
And then using that money to buy a property or to buy mail. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. I was on my knees a lot praying, God, I have no idea how this is going to work. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I believe that this is what I'm supposed to do for this time in my life. And so I'm just going to keep going forward. And my wife said, Jeremy, I can go get a job. You know, I said, nope, stay the course. You said you wanted to homeschool. That was important to us. We wanted that freedom. We wanted to be able to travel and do different things. Let's just stay the course. And that took a lot of faith for us, but it worked out. And so that may not be the path for everyone else. And I wouldn't advise people to do that, but that's the type of that's how I am. That's how I live. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I thought, hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to pick myself up by the bootstraps. If we have to move out of our house or something crazy happens, like we've got each other and we'll figure it out and we'll build back, however. So fortunately it didn't happen. We got it to work out, but I mean, it actually took probably a good 2 to 2.5 years before I was at a point where I could pay my bills. Like we were always constantly borrowing and like, hey, we're just scraping by. And so, I know some people have early success and I thought I was going to be one of those, but I wasn't. I didn't have it. And there were many times where because I wasn't good at wholesaling starting out, I was better at buying the houses and just holding them myself or flipping. Like I just went that path because I think it was easier for me. And then after doing several houses, I realized I hate this. It's adult daycare. I'm dealing with literally a contractor is at my property and he's refinishing the tub area. And it's like 4:00 and he's like, all right, man, we'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here at 7 a.m. So I'm there at 7 a.m. I'm calling him. Nothing. Right. Hey, man, where you at? Like this has to be done because until that part is done, we can't, my plumbers can't get in. And so at like 9:00, he finally answers his phone. He's like, hey, man. I'm like, hey, what's up? Where are you at, bro? You said you were going to be here at 7. He's like, oh, I'm in Memphis. I'm like, what do you mean you're in Memphis? I'm like, you told me you were going to be here at 7. So all that to say, you guys, anyone that's flipped houses knows you've heard those stories. Oh, my truck broke down. Oh, I'm in Memphis. Oh, I'm, whatever. And listen, stuff happens. I get it. But I was just like, man, there's got to be a better way. Like I went into this not to flip, but to wholesale initially. And so I'm just like, man, I'm going to, I got to figure out a way to get myself out of this. And so I really started focusing on how could I wholesale properties and how could I build that buyer's list the way I need to and get the prices that I need so there's enough meat on the bone. And so that was kind of that next phase. And that, like I said, it was like 2 years of flipping and wholesaling 1 or 2 here and there that I'm like, man, like I like those like 10, 20, $30,000 wholesale checks without flipping that, swinging the hammer. It just saved me a lot of brain damage. And so I kind of figured that out. And then that kind of changed everything once I figured out that wholesaling is a lot better than flipping for me personally and my lifestyle.
Oh, one quick question. What year was this? Like when you got your start? When was
Yeah,
it?
so I started I hired a coach in 16, but I actually left that job. So I started kind of doing it just like, on the side, and then I left that job I think in uh 17, middle of 17. So um I uh basically what happened is I had the LLC, and I realized, oh shoot, at some point I'm gonna have to bring in a partner, someone who can
Mhm.
help me, because if I'm chasing all the deals. So I brought a partner in in 2017, and it really took from 16 to oh gosh, from 16 to about 18 before it was really something that
Right.
I said I was able to pay my bills. So when I did start, I wasn't able to, I didn't end up finding houses right away. That took some time. So when I actually made the jump, that was when I had no properties, and so it was just crazy. So 16 was the first year I started, and we're just trying to hustle and do it by our bootstraps, like a lot of people here.
Right.
Yeah. A couple people commented. Arthur said, "Wow, that's faith." Talking back to when you were literally saying, like, I was on my knees almost every single day, just trying to figure out and pray to get through this. And then Adam said, "Good morning, great story, so relatable." I think sometimes in this world of real estate investing, there's a lot of glitz and a lot of glam. You see the really, really rich, successful people, or so they appear, because they're taking photos and posting in front of their Lamborghini
Sure.
or whatever it is, and it gets really glitzy, and everyone feels like an imposter because all these other people have these big things. No one's talking about the real deal, the real story. How did they actually get to where they're just paying their freaking bills? How did they get to the point where they're able to leave their 9 to 5? Because that's what's real. Sure, would everyone love to have a Lamborghini, Ferrari, or whatever? Great. But the reality is, what we want, what everyone in this group wants, is quality of life. They want to do what they're passionate about. They want to provide for their family. They want to have success, and then maybe build up to that. But that first step is, how do I leave my 9 to 5, and how do I cover my own bills? And that's what you just shared with us, is how to grit through that, how to learn from those experiences. If you could go back and do that, start those first 2 years over again and do one thing differently, what would you do differently knowing what you know now?
Oh gosh. So I probably would I would not be dealing with single family houses, to be
Okay.
honest with you. So I built a team, and part of it now is like, we built a team, we built a kind of a machine that's running. It's our bread and butter. And that's great. And I'm not going to leave that now. Theres people that on my team that they are faithful. They depend on this, on the job for their families. And I'm trying to build in ways where we're allowing our own team to invest in our deals. And like, I love that aspect of it.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't do it now because, that thing is already running. But if I could go back to that self, knowing what I know now, I would either start investing in apartments, because a lot of people think that you have to graduate from single family to do multifamily. It is 1000% not true. Some people, they jump right into mobile home parks. Like there's some young people in their 20s that own mobile home parks, 5, 6 mobile home parks. I'm like, dang, like they were smart, right? Because they went after buying assets. And so
Mhm.
there's a couple things that I have a problem with in the real estate kind of sphere with, is sometimes people get lured into, like you said, those traps of like, oh, the shiny objects, or the Lamborghini, or the lifestyle, and all that's great. But to do that, flipping a single family house, or wholesaling a deal, keep in mind it's very transactional. So
Mhm.
once you do a deal, you got to do your next deal.
Hmm.
And the worst part is, you're giving a lot of money away to Uncle Sam. If I buy an apartment building and I hang on to it, and I hire a really good construction crew to do the rehab, and I add value to that building, number one, I'm forcing appreciation, because I'm going to increase the rents on that building. And so guess what happens when either you buy an apartment building, or you get involved in a like a syndication, or your group, a group with other investors who are pooling their money together. You now own an asset. So that asset kicks out cash flow, and that asset also gives you depreciation benefits. And so I think a lot of people, they think, oh, I see, Pace Morby, triple digit flip on TV, or I see all these guys on TV, and they think, oh, flipping houses is glamorous. And I can tell you that I think flipping houses sucks. Now,
right.
if you have someone on your team, either that's construction guy that manages that and that's their superhuman strength, then by all means, flipping houses can be amazing. It can be amazing. But for me, if I'm the guy on the job, swinging the hammer, managing contractors, absolutely not. I'm done with that nonsense. Like, no way.
Yep.
And so I like multifamily for the reasons I mentioned. It's cash flow. You can force appreciation. You get the depreciation. So your taxes are going to be way less. And then the other one that I really like, not a lot of people are talking about, but they're talking about more is land. I love land. I've bought 103 acres. I've bought 99 acres. I've bought land in all different states. I don't go visit the land. I literally just buy it for 25 to 35% of what it's worth. And then typically just turn around and resell it for anywhere between, call it 50 and 70% of its worth. So I'm buying low, I'm selling low. It's velocity of money, right? I really like land. So all that to say, I still like the wholesaling side of it. But I would never, knowing what I know, I would have started with land, and I would have started with or multifamily. Both of those have incredible benefits. It just depends on what you like.
So can I ask you this? Getting into real estate investing, if someone's newer in this, the thought of an apartment complex or rentals or mobile home parks, et cetera, that's big dollars, right? We're not talking maybe buying a really cheap $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 house and flipping it. We're talking big money up front, and you're talking about bringing in partners, big dollars, negotiating big deals. What advice would you give someone that's trying to even wrap their mind around how to step into that space and do it strategically? Because that's a big chunk of change that we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part about the best part about multifamily is you can actually get into it and do it for a very, very low dollar amount, because more than likely you're not going to be the one who is using your own money. You either going to help raise money or you're going to help to find a deal. There's different aspects of what you can do to be a part of that. Land is one of those things where you could probably start with $10,000 or $20,000. You could do it for less. I know people that have done it for $5,000, but you're really going to be struggling to get to that next level. But what I would kind of say is, my advice is this: if you want to do flipping, go find someone that's flipping at scale or at the scale that you want to be. If someone's flipping 10 houses a year and you want to flip 10 houses a year, go to that person, either go work for them for free, or if you can get a job, that's better, or go work for them for free, or go shadow them and spend a couple weeks or a month, somehow adding value or seeing what they're doing. Maybe potentially looking for deals for them to analyze. Or the other option is go find that person. And if they have a program that makes sense or a mentorship, pay for it. Because here's the thing. I have a big issue with this because I was one of these guys, right? All of us have access to information. You can go on and find stuff about, hey, what do you guys do? Pace Morby. You can find out about SEO. You can find about anything you want, okay? Mm-hmm. And YouTube is great for that. If you're just starting out, by all means, go take advantage of that. But you're going to get about 90% of what you need to know. Can you figure it out? Absolutely, 1,000%. You can figure it out. But that 10% is the crucial 10%. And so if I can go and learn whatever I need, that extra 10% that's going to help me to get to the next level, I'm going to go pay for that. And so for me personally, I did a little bit of, I'm going to hire a coach, and then I'm just going to go do. And I did that, and it was great. But as I've progressed in my real estate career, I realized, oh, shoot, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know if I was going to wholesale or flip, or I just was like, I'm going to get into real estate. And so I just went and took action. But what I would do now is I would say, hey, there's a lot of different niches in real estate, right? I can buy houses. I can do buy and hold. I can invest in land. I can do short-term rentals by the beach or in the mountains. Like, dude, there are a million different ways to make money in real estate. What I would tell somebody is go find the niche that you like and that supports your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you want to have. and then go and find that individual that's doing that and they're really, really successful, and figure out how you can be part of their program, how you can work for them, or how you can be mentored by them. One of those options. Just go do it, because that's going to then accelerate your growth curve, your revenue, and help you to avoid all those pitfalls. So I've seen it time and again where I see people that are newer that started out. I'm like, man, this person's really successful really fast. How is it? Oh, because they had a mentor. Oh, because they went and worked for a wholesaling company first. They saw how it all worked while getting paid. And then now all of a sudden they go out on their own. They already know what to expect. Well, I didn't have that. I just jumped in. But if I was going to do it today, those are the things that I would do.
That's amazing. Guys, if you're listening and you have questions for Jeremy about anything that we've talked about, feel free to be interactive and ask those questions. Today, we're kind of going through the history of Jeremy, where he is, where he's been. Next week, we're going to deep dive into how he's actually running his business, the tools he's utilizing, how he negotiates deals. That's one thing. I'm not even going to lie, Jeremy. When you were messaging me about a deal that you were working this past week and the week before, and you were giving all the scenarios and all the different options, I was like, I literally read your message 2 or 3 times, and you're so passionate about that for real estate investors this year. Not to go too far into that right now, but how to position yourself and be ready, because this is going to be a phenomenal year for real estate investors. And if you don't understand how to negotiate these deals and you don't have your cash flow ready, you're going to miss out on a big opportunity. So that's something we're going to jump into next week. So take me from, I guess, 2021, 22-ish. What made you decide to launch into a new market? Because that was one of your big achievements this past year. What made you decide you wanted to even do that? And then what made you pick the market that you selected, and how's that going?
Okay, so let me clarify. I didn't jump into that market this year. I jumped in 2020.
Okay, 2020. Gotcha.
But here's kind of the progression of that. So my partner that I partnered with, he was a full-time missionary in Cambodia. His role was going to help with some of the financing, was going to help with some of the systems, CRM, all that stuff. Well, my role was going to be the guy on the ground. I'm answering the phones, dealing with contractors. But what ended up happening was, as we started to figure out the lead gen piece, and again, the lead gen is all of it, right? Because if you have no leads, you have no business. If you get leads and then you're not calling them back, I don't know if any of your people have ever had this problem. I'm getting phone calls. I've got 20, 25 phone calls of people that I didn't even call them back because I'm out doing other things. And so I'm paying money for marketing, and I'm not calling them back, or I'm calling them back like 2 days later, and they're like getting frustrated, or like, it was crazy. And I'm like, well, wait, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I did this for too long, and I'd call them back when I could, and whatever. And it worked out. We found our deals, but I wasted so much money doing this. So, and then my partner, we made some shifts in our business model. So we went from flipping to kind of wholesaling, and then kind of doing some flipping. And then we started buying land deals. So I'm doing all 3 at once. And then we had to figure out, like, well, what CRM are we going to use? And we were making changes there. And so my partner ends up coming back from Cambodia, and he decides, hey, I'm going to be a full-time pastor in Colorado. And so he's going to go start a church plant. And so he's like, I really need to get out of this and make sure that all my ducks are in a row. And so I bought him out in 2020. Well, here's the deal. He came back in 2020. So I was constantly just running myself ragged. And in 2019, we shifted so much. We're doing land, we're doing houses. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like, what did I get into this for? And so, not even to mention, this is another thing. It's like, he kept pushing for buying rental properties. And I'm like, no, man. I'm like, I ain't got the time to manage that. I don't want to buy. Like, we got too many other things going. And I was the one having to chase it down. So I pushed it away. So I think it was December of 2018, I bought my first rental property. 11 months later, we had 50 doors.
Huh.
Wow.
So again, this is hard because I'm going back and reliving this, and it's like so many things have happened in my business in a short period of time. But literally, I told the lady, my first deal, my first rental property, it was a 4-2 in Clarksville, Tennessee. Nobody wanted to be in Clarksville, Tennessee. Today, if you go check, Clarksville is one of the top places for home buyers. Everyone told me, dude, why are you looking at properties in Clarksville? Like all the actions in Nashville. I'm like, because the cash flow is great. I'm like, I'm just starting to look. We're considering rental proproperties. So I told this lady no 5 times. She wanted 125 for her house. We agreed on 77, and I said, fine, I'll buy it. So I bought that house for 77. And during that time, I'm in that 2018, kind of 2019, like, all right, we're making all these transitions in our business. I'm trying to get out of my business. I just need to make a move. So my parents lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They retired down there, lived on a golf course. And I'm like, I've been going down there for like, for almost 40 years. So I'm like, I know it a little bit. So I started doing some research and I'm like, oh my gosh. In Nashville, you have all these sophisticated investors doing all these things. There's a lot of cohesiveness. There's networking. I look at Myrtle Beach and I'm like, man, there's nobody doing this. Like there's a gap in the market. It's fragmented. There aren't the wholesalers and people doing what we're doing in Nashville. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to dive in. So I contacted a wholesaler. This is what I did to get into that market. I contacted a wholesaler that was referred to me through my Wholesaling Inc. network. Called him and said, hey, man, I'm looking at Myrtle Beach. Is there anything that you have coming up? I'm looking for some rental properties. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just told him this. And he's like, yeah, man, I got some things coming down. I'll keep you posted when I have something. So here I am. I'm coming back from the mountains with my family after a weekend. The guy calls me, says, hey, man, can you FaceTime? So I'm literally sitting in the back seat of my car with my kids, and my wife and her friend are up in the front. I'm looking at this house on FaceTime, and he's like, yeah, it's a good deal. The bottom flooded, but it was just in the crawl space. There's no major damage. It only needs probably like $8,000 or $9,000. Like, what do you think? I'm like, let's just do it. I'm like, let's do it. I didn't have a contractor in that market. I didn't have anything, but I'm like, you know what? I want to be in the market. I want to be in this market. My parents live there, so it's an excuse for me to go see them. And I said, screw it. Let's just do it. So after that, we signed the contract, and I say, hey, man, do you have any contractors? Because I don't know who can do this job. So he goes, yeah, I got someone. So I call this guy on the phone and kind of tell him what the wholesaler told me. And I said, hey, man, Matt told me this house needs like $10,000. And this guy goes, listen, Matt's a great guy and all, but he doesn't know nothing about construction. He's like, this house is going to take $20,000. It might take 25 to get where you need it to go. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Okay. So I kind of reworked the numbers, and I think we ended up buying it for like 52 or something. We ended up putting like 22 into the house, and then it appraised for like 125. So we were able to pull out, I don't know, call it $5,000 or $8,000 after it was all said and done. But here's the deal. That contractor is today my partner. I liked him so much. This guy didn't know me, and I was trying to, work with him. And because he shot it to me straight, and he's from Massachusetts, and he's very, very honest and upfront and loves negotiating and loves the things, I call him today. He's the fixer. I'm like, he fixed all my problems. I'm like, I love you, man. But he actually was like, I knew from that type of attitude, if he's willing to be honest with me and just tell me up front, like, this is, not as good of a deal as you think, or it's going to require more work. I'm like, all right, that's great. I'm willing to trust this guy. So over a couple of conversations, probably after conversation number 3, I'm like, this is the guy. Like, I'm going to try to partner with him. So I literally sent him out on an appointment. I started getting leads. This took a little bit of time. I'm trying to, fast forward the timeline, but it was probably, give it a good 3 months or so. He finished this house, and I said, hey, screw it. I'm going to start doing some, getting some leads in this market myself. So I had an SEO company who had been bugging me for 6 months, and I kept telling them no. I said, I will let you do my SEO in Myrtle Beach. I said, you're not getting Nashville because I have another company who's doing a good job. I'll give you Myrtle Beach. If you can bring some leads in Myrtle Beach, then maybe I'll consider giving you all my business. So sure enough, he brings us a really good lead. I tell the contractor, hey, man, can you put down the hammer for today? And would you go on this appointment and tell me what you would offer this lady? So I literally had a number in mind and didn't tell him. I just said, he's like, what am I supposed to do? I said, go just talk to her, look at the house, and then call me and tell me what you think this house is worth. So sure enough, he does that. And I mean, he's that type of guy. So like, he tells me, he's like, Jeremy, is this weird? But like, this lady started like crying and she gave me a hug. And I'm like, this is the guy. I'm like, this is the guy. So he told her, he walked her through what it would take. And he said, ma'am, I know you think it's only $15,000, but in this house, I'm going to spend $60,000 to $70,000. And here's why. He walked her through all of it. And she goes, Adam, I have to be honest with you. We've already had bids from 3 other contractors and your numbers are spot on. And
Wow.
so what is it, you know, like, what can I get out of this property? So he called me and he said that, you know, I would offer her 50 and my number was 53. And so it was kind of the, it was the good cop, bad cop, right? Because number one, I was the guy with the money and I was willing to go 53. He was the guy who was being more conservative, and he is to this day. He's more conservative. He's a construction guy. He knows his numbers in and out. He's like, if I can squeak out a little bit of margin, I will. If we need to give him that extra price, I know my numbers, so we're going to make sure this is a good deal. So anyways, all that to say, he said, hey, ma'am, I can give you 50,000, but let me talk with my partner, Jeremy. Maybe he'll give you a call. And so we played the good cop, bad cop. He did the 50,000. And then I called her back and she said, hey, is there any way you can, you know, maybe do a little bit more? And I said, hey, I can do like 53,000 or 52.5 or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact number. And we bought that house. And I'm like, that was his first appointment he ever did for me. I gave him no warning, no nothing. I just said, go in and do your thing. Tell me what it's worth. And he got the lady literally crying, telling him, you're exactly right on your numbers. What can you offer me? And they took it. And it was like, yep, this is my partner. I'm going to make Myrtle Beach work. I knew it at that point.
That is incredible. The fact, I don't know if he was thinking about going to that appointment the way you were, or if he just had his construction guy hat on. So he was so genuine, honest, and authentic. But holy smokes, to see that come together, and the fact that your guys' numbers were so spot on just blows my mind. Like, I can't imagine in real time what you were thinking, like all of this coming together. But when it comes to those appointments, I think sometimes people feel like they have to go in with this big strategy and this game plan and like how to work the system or how to work this person over. What I love about that one is he went in and he was just real and authentic with her, and she sensed that to the point that she was moved to an emotional spot. And they were able to have a really authentic conversation and talk about what needed to happen. And that immediately built that relationship for you guys to get that deal done with her. That's incredible. So how long have you been partners in? Did that start in 2020?
Yeah. So that started in 2020. Our first year, I think it was like 28 deals. Our second year in 2021, I think we did 46. It's all my KPI sheet, but I don't have it in front of me right now. I think we did 46. And then last year we did, I said 85. I think we did 86. We actually bought 31 rentals, but 26 were in one LLC and the other 5 were in the other. We did a lot of creative finance. We did 0 down, 0% interest deals. We did a lot of sub 2s. And so the way we've had our relationship with him, is I would just tell him, hey man, here's what I need you to do. Or I need you to learn sub 2. He's like, what's sub 2? I'm like, here's what it is. And he goes, oh, I think I got that. I go, all right, go out and do it. and so not everybody clearly can do this. And we had our learning curve. But that's how we've done sub 2. We've done owner finance. And if he has questions, he brings me in or he'll call me or whatever. But he's so good at making offers now that doesn't even happen. So, you know, fast forward to today, we've got 3 acquisition managers. You know, we brought on another guy who last year in his first year with us, he moved 50 houses alone as an acquisition manager.
Oh my.
But wow. here's another secret and tip for people that are watching. Everyone's looking for an acquisition manager, or I shouldn't say this. A lot of people are looking for that person that, talks really good. They're polished, they're salesmen. My team, my best success is coming from people that are not salesy at all. In fact, they have construction experience. This is why if you want to be a great wholesaler, like if you want to be really good in wholesale properties, you need to either understand the numbers inside and out, or your acquisition guys need to, because someone that knows construction is going to put a property under for the right price. Someone who doesn't is going to pay that extra $10, $15, $25,000, put it out to wholesale or put it out to their buyers. And then their buyers are like, yeah, there's no meat on the bone, or they get a $5,000 or $10,000 assignment fee. I mean, our average company-wide assignment fee this year was like, so at one point we were at 39,000, but it kind of came back toward the end of the year. And so our average assignment ended up being 28 by the end of the year. It scaled down a lot, but 28,000 is still really strong. I've got 3 acquisition managers. So two of them have been with me. One of them for, a year. The third one we brought on in 2022, and he, still learning, still trying to get the hang of things. But the fact of the matter is, the team is really fluid, and we've just continued to invest, and we say, hey, listen, we're in this for the long term. So invest in our people, make them partners in the company. So that guy that brought in, again, I do things with our company a little bit different. So that acquisition manager, I pay him more than I would pay someone just starting out, and most companies would pay, because, and this is hard to understand, but he has another business where he makes a ton of money, and he doesn't need to work with us, but he goes, I love real estate. I have someone else running that business. So here's what I want. I want to buy assets and reduce my taxes. So he gets his wholesale fee when we wholesale a property. But what we decided to do is create a separate LLC. And there's my other partner and him. The 3 of us are partners. And in his market, we know we can buy a ton of properties, and they're cash flowing. I mean, literally, we're buying properties for anywhere from 20 to 50,000. They're renting for 9 to 1,500. I mean, massive cash flow. And so some people are like, oh, if I get 1%, I'm good. I wouldn't touch 1% with a 10-foot pole. We're at like 1.5 minimum. On some of these deals, we bought one deal, 4 houses. This was him, 4 single family houses for 110,000. When we bought them, they were renting for $2,600. They were all month to month.
Out.
When we bought the properties. Now, they don't need a ton of work. They're in good condition, but we went to the tenants and we're like, hey, listen, you guys are paying like $400 under market for these properties. We need to get a little bit closer. So we're going to bump rents $200. And some people are like, oh, $200, like, oh, that's crazy. I can't believe you would do that. But if they tried to move, they would have to pay $400 for a lesser place or something comparable. So here's the deal on this. We closed on that. We are now all in on that property, 110 plus, call it $2,500 in closing costs or whatever. We have those 4 houses. They're probably worth $265 as is, and they're kicking off $3,400 a month.
That's
a smoking deal.
That's crazy.
And so here's what I try to do. When I hire people, I hire them so that if I'm going to invest with them, I never want them to leave. Now, if they do, that's fine. But if I can align their interest with mine, like this guy, he's a partner in that LLC. So is he ever going to leave? Absolutely not. He's going to be like, hey, this is my retirement. Yeah. So let me also tell you why I love rentals. And if you're getting involved, like, think now and think long-term. If you're a wholesaler, for every 3 or 5 properties you wholesale, I don't care what the number is, make sure you cherry pick and find a way to buy something for yourself. Let me tell you why. In those 26 doors that I picked up in that new LLC this year, we were all in, I think, for $950,000 for 26 doors. The equity we have is like 1.9 and change. So we have a ton of equity in those properties. But here's the best part. We did a cost segregation on those properties. A cost segregation allowed us to accelerate depreciation. All you need to do is go talk to a good CPA and they'll tell you. But here's the point. That LLC is kicking off a bunch of cash now every single month, but it's going to show up as a loss. And so that cost segregation is going to actually, because we can get 100% depreciation in year 1, it's going to negate our taxes. It's going to give us a $260,000 depreciation bump, right? So that's going to offset That's going to offset our taxes. And guess what? If I don't need all that this year, I can carry it over for the next year. And then in addition to that, and so I'm going kind of in depth, but I'm telling, I want it's important to know that go wholesale, go flip, go do all that, but keep something for yourself. That's one of the mistakes I didn't make until too late, because the more you keep, the more it's going to reduce your overall taxes and give you cash flow. So you're doing two things at once. But even better yet, I've got several other properties that I'd never done a cost segregation with, even some of the ones we bought in that other LLC. So from that LLC, that cost segregation, we're going to get a benefit of $450,000 in depreciation.
Jeez.
So between those two LLCs, we're talking almost $700,000. So my point is, guys, if you're buying real estate, actually buy something, buy a piece of land, buy an apartment, invest. Somehow you have to have assets. Okay. So if it's single family homes, go and get a hard money loan, renovate that property, refinance it, keep it for your personal portfolio. Or if you don't want to go and hold 4 properties, hold out and buy one quad. That's 4 units. It's easier to buy a quad than 4 separate properties and keep. So my preference is, if I can buy 10 units from one owner, buy that all day long. Don't go. If you can avoid it, it's harder to buy 10 houses from 10 sellers than it is to buy 10 properties from one seller.
Sure.
And so dude, there's so many things. I'll just keep talking here. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
No, you're good. I have a question for you. So one of the things that I'm hearing throughout your story of both when you started and where you're at right now is your tenacity to see an opportunity and find a creative solution for it. You find the right person in Myrtle Beach and you figure out a way to make them a partner. You are working these deals where it starts off like the one we were talking about. It starts off as an apartment building, and then there's a storage facility, and then there's all these things. You get opportunity that comes your way, and you're always able to find a creative solution for it. Where did you come up with the confidence or tenacity? Is it just experience? Have you always been this way? Like, what is it about you that makes you successful in always figuring these things out? Because for some people, that's paralyzing. They have analysis paralysis. They don't know what to do. They over research. They don't take action. But everything you go into and you're taking action on it. So how do you do it?
So no, I don't have experience in that. But like I said, I'm a big dreamer. Like, I believe. So a lot of times people are, worried about, like, what if this goes wrong? I calculate the what if it goes wrong, but I also say, what if it goes right? Like, I want to be flying. I don't want to be, in that pit of like, hey, I'm in a submarine and it's sinking and I'm, we have no oxygen. We're going down. That's the end. Like, I think about it and I say, hey, what is there something in this deal that I'm missing or other investors are missing? Why is it that they passed? And are there times when I pass on those deals? Absolutely, all the time. But I also look at a deal and say, hey, maybe someone else missed this opportunity, and that's their issue. I believe someone once told me, hey, your amount of wealth is directly proportional to the amount of problems you solve. And they said, let me take that a step further. If you solve bigger problems, you're even more wealthy. I'm like, dang, that's cool. I'm like, that fits
on that one.
that fits. So what I started doing, like, for example, I get a phone call on a Sunday. Okay. This guy calls me and he's like, hey man, I need to sell my house. I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. When do you want to sell it? He goes, well, I have to sell it like as soon as possible. I'm like, okay, well, tell me what's going on. Is there a problem? Is something happening? He goes, well, I'm going to lose it next week. I'm like, next week? What do you mean? Like, foreclosure? So he goes into this whole spiel. He goes, listen, I've called so many people and people have come out to my property and they just haven't made an offer. So literally I go out to this guy's property. He's got a triple wide on 99 acres of land.
Oh,
he also has 2 other houses that, they could be restored or they could be torn down or whatever, but he's got utilities. He's got just beautiful property, amazing property. So I'm working with this guy and I put in a lot of work to kind of make this happen, but he just flat out told me, he's like, listen, you're another person that is out here and no one has made an offer. Like, I need you just to figure out how I can make this work. And he's like, oh, and by the way, I don't want to I don't want to leave. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So here's another problem. Like, if I buy it, how am I gonna? So here's what we worked out. I said, here's what I'll do. I will buy this property for, what did I buy it for? I bought it for $80,000, and I said, I'll let you live in it, but you're gonna pay it back to me. You know, I'm gonna be the bank essentially. You're gonna pay me an amount each month. That's gonna work for you, and you know, we'll figure all that out. And I said, but you're gonna have to refinance out of this within 3 years. Well, first couple months go by, things are going okay. He's making payments. All of a sudden, he stops making payments. He won't take my phone calls. Won't do anything. Well, number one, the moral of the story, the first part is like I figured out a solution where he's like, well, nobody offered me that amount of money. He's like, nobody offered me anything. He's like, you're the one who can give me a solution. So I just told him I need to be in for as little as possible, but I will rent it back to you. And I'm going to figure out like another way for this to work for me. And I don't remember all the dynamics of this deal, but I remember the fact that I was able to get him out of it. And my partner and I like, yeah, if this works, you know, hey, we make a little bit of cash. Oh yeah, here's what it was. We bought it for 80. And then we sold it back to him, owner finance, for like 120 or something. Okay. So that's where the spread was coming from. I knew there was a reason why. Anyways, long story short, he ends up not paying for like several months. And I'm trying to work with the guy. And he's like, oh, my truck broke down. That's my source of income. And I'm like, hey, man, I just helped you out. I just helped you out of a big jam. You were about to lose it to the bank. You were going to get nothing. It's your family land. All I'm trying to do is get paid. I'm trying to help you. And so he just said, yeah, man, there's nothing I can do. And he just walked away. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. And he's like, I'm not paying, but I'm not going nowhere. So I hired an attorney. I had to foreclose on the guy. And so this thing forecloses. And I just said, screw it. I'm going to let this thing go and see how high this thing gets bid up at auction. Anyways, long story short, we ended up making like $220,000 off of this deal. And this is a deal. My point in telling you this is the numbers were a little bit screwy how we did this, but I thought, hey, there's an opportunity here. We can extract some value. We can figure out a way that other people couldn't to make this work. And so we just did that. There have been several other properties. I bought an apartment building that no one else wanted. And I'm like, this is a smoking deal. No one else wants this. We can make this work. And then, you know, it turned out to be incredible for us. So I think part of it is just thinking mindset. I believe in myself. I believe if there's an opportunity, we can figure it out. And so I'm just willing to say, hey, can we extract value from this deal? Does it actually make sense? And I just calculate the risk both ways. But my feeling is like, hey, I want to be thinking about how I can fly. You know, I don't want to be thinking about sinking. So that's where I try to dwell. And I try to surround myself with people that are doing bigger things than I'm doing. And that's helped a ton.
My last question for you. So I know you invested in a coach pretty early on, and you've made several comments about like different groups or partnerships or networks or whatever. How big of an impact do you think your network has played in your success and what you've been able to achieve? And even though those first 2 years were a little dicey, what you've achieved relatively quickly following that, how much did your network impact your ability to succeed?
Yeah, no, it was massive. So I wasn't on Facebook. I didn't have time all those years. I was like, no, I'm not going to post about houses. And like, all I was doing was working like all day long. So I wasn't on Facebook. But what happened was once I got into, you know, Myrtle Beach market and really started to grow that side of the business, grow our team, I started to have more time. And so I was like, well, I can go meet people in person, but, you know, I could do it online and see what they're doing. I can talk with them that way. So that's how I first started. And in fact, I found my first apartment deal. Someone posted an 8-unit apartment in Facebook, and I was like really fast to respond. And then I just direct messaged them and said, hey man, like I was sitting at my daughter's soccer game, watching the warm-ups. And I was just like, oh, I'll scroll through Facebook. I saw this post. And then I said, hey man, I'm interested. I immediately direct messaged him and said, hey, Jason, I am someone that can close. I can, you know, if you'll let me get to the property and get first crack at it, I'll go with my property manager and I will let you know that day. He lets me go. He gives me first crack. I was aggressive. I just took a chance. I'd never bought a multifamily before. That was an 8-unit apartment building. I bought it for 165,000, 8 units.
Jeez.
Wow.
It was kicking off. It was kicking off about $4,500. I would have paid probably $230 for it, but he wanted 165, and I'm like, "Yep, done." So that first apartment deal, people say, "Oh, I need a ton of money," and this was back in 2019, I think it was. But like I borrowed from a hard money lender to secure that asset, and we put in $15K of our own money to own an asset that was worth significantly more. Right. And so we just, did that, refinanced, and that was that. So I will say I use those networks. I've also got involved in masterminds. We started our own REI group. I believe that who you surround yourself with, I mean, you hear this all the time, if the 5 people that you surround yourself with, you're going to be like them, right? If you're around 5 people that smoke, you're going to smoke. If you're around 5 people that are like super high achievers, well, if you want to be around them and you want to fit in, you better be a high achiever, or you better figure it out, right? So whatever that is, I think that's important. It doesn't mean you can't be around your other friends, but like when you're talking business, don't be around people that are like just starting out only. Like, yeah, spend time with them. Hey, what do you do and how are you going to business? That's fine. But then get around those people that are like, hey, this person has achieved what I want. I'm flipping houses, they're flipping houses, but they're doing 200 houses. At some point, they must have been like me. How can I find out what this person is doing? And so just get in the room, just get at the table. And if that means it's going to cost you some money, it's going to cost you some sweat equity, it doesn't matter. Find a way. I mean, you're a wholesaler. You're a hustler by nature. Go hustle with your network and relationships. And that to me has been massive. Once I started investing in myself, getting in these other, things and just saying, you know what, I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to respond. Or, hey, there's a deal here. I'm going to be aggressive. Give me a chance. And I just would message them, hey, give me a chance. Well, that first apartment building that was 8 units, guess what? A month and a half later, he had another apartment building under contract, 19 units. Who do you think he called first?
Yep.
Me. And I bought that 19-unit apartment building for $700,000.
Wow.
And it appraised when I bought it for $920,000. And 12 months later, it appraised for like $1.2 million. So what I'm trying to say here is like, you don't need to have the big bucks. What you need is, yes, go after the relationships. If you're going to hustle to find deals, hustle in your relationships too. Go find the right people. Go hang around them. You will by nature, a rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
Get around those people that are doing well, and you, by the very nature, that's the easiest way to start being successful. Get around those people. Find a way to get at the table or in the room.
I love that. Guys, if you are watching and you think this is incredible, just drop some gratitude in the chat roll for Jeremy and everything that he shared with us today. Also, go friend him on Facebook. I hope it's okay that I share this, but Jeremy shared with me beforehand that if you have questions, message him, talk to him in the group, message him, reach out. If you are hustling, if you are working at it, if you have questions, he is so willing to share his knowledge and experience with you guys. Not to like quote you, but you said, if I can save someone from making one mistake and help them move their business forward faster, I'm going to help them do it. It may take a day or two to get back to it, but I will always answer. I will always be there. I want to give that back because so many people have been that to me and to you in your life. So make sure that you go friend Jeremy. He's going to be back with us next week. Now that you know who he is, what he's done, let's learn how he did it. Let's talk about your business next week. Let's talk about how you're positioning yourself going into 2023, what some folks can do to have the right people aligned, the right cash flow aligned, the right systems in place, what you're doing for marketing, what your strategy is for next year, so that some folks can take away those action items too and start applying some of those things and getting ready. What's your take? And we'll wrap this up in 2 minutes. It's a 2-second question, but what's your take? What are you excited for in 2023? What do you think's coming?
Oh, what am I excited for? Housing prices are going to go down. I don't know how much, but in 2022, as interest rates rose, right, you had buyers that wanted discounts, but you had sellers that wanted top dollar. Well, sellers are starting to give concessions. They're starting to come down in price. And so for me personally, we're going to buy more houses. I have not been in this cycle since 2016. Houses have generally been going up. And in the last couple of years, it's been going way up. This year, we're going to continue to see prices get dragged down. And some people say, oh, there's going to be blood in the streets. I don't know if there's going to be blood in the streets, but I don't care. If someone has a house to sell, we're going to make an offer, and we're going to just, we're going to buy houses in an up market and a down market. This will be my first down market that I've ever experienced. And so I've been assembling or hoarding cash. I want to buy as many properties this year as possible. And, you probably have seen, other wholesalers have seen buyers and hedge funds kind of fall off the face of the earth a little bit. And so what we've done is we said, hey, you know what? We know these deals are smoking deals. We're taking them down ourselves. People are still buying. So we're going to make sure that we buy right, and we're going to accumulate as many properties as we can. My goal is 500 doors this year. And I've already made an offer for 475. Another one's going out today for 114 doors, and then another one for 9. So I've already got offers in right now that, hey, maybe we only get one of those deals. Maybe we get 2 of them, but we're going to push hard. And my goal is 500 doors. So this is where wealth is transferred. This is where wealth is made. So if you've been hustling, if you are a wholesaler that has been wholesaling but not keeping, this is going to be your time. So, figure out a way, get a hard money lender. Listen, if you need advice, or if you need a pep talk, I can be that guy. Shoot me a text or call me 615-670-8153. I will, if I don't answer my phone, leave a message. I'll call you back. Shoot me a text. Find me on Facebook. Like, I've been where you guys are at. And the difference between massive success and struggling to kind of get by, it's not that much. You would think it's a great disparity. It's not. It's little things. I'd love to help you guys out. Feel free to reach out to me. Hopefully this has been helpful.
That is amazing. Guys, I don't know too many people that have Jeremy's experience in his heart for wanting to help others. He literally just gave you his personal cell phone number, which is crazy. I don't know anyone else that does that and has a heart for this the way that you do. Guys, if you have questions, if you catch the replay, drop them in the chat roll. Jeremy has offered, reach out to him directly, text or give him a call. He will be back with us next week, same place, same time. We're going to deep dive into his business, what he does day to day, what his operations look like, his marketing, etc., and hopefully give you guys some insight on how to position yourself in 2023. Jace, is there anything you want to wrap up here with? You good?
No, man, this has been awesome. Big eye opener. Really appreciate everything that you've shared with us, and of course, we always got next week too to share even more. But no, This has been awesome. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. We're gonna cut the live, and Jeremy, hang tight. We'll chat with you for just a minute once we pop out of here.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.